Welcome to another Charge Attack podcast. We've got a really exciting week as well this week. We've just had State of Play, literally an hour and a quarter ago.
We were ready.
We were on there, and we decided to do a podcast just after it so that we could bring everything as up to date as possible to you. There was some amazing things that we want to talk about, and I literally cannot wait to talk about and give my views and opinions and tell you how wrong everybody else is. And
Stop
I'm
fanboying.
Yeah, it's totally worth it. But first of all, we are going to start off with PlayStation. We'll get them out of the way. EA Access is coming to PlayStation. That got announced this week. It's been on Xbox for quite a while now. Have you ever used EA Access?
No, but I know people who have.
Like who?
My friend.
And does he use it a lot? Is it good?
Yeah, he used it for Anthem.
Yeah. Well, Does that mean that meant he didn't even have to buy the game then? So
He got it a few hours. Is it like 10 hours beforehand?
I think
something like that for Anthem.
We won't even go over that. So obviously Anthem's blimmin' shady release dates with everything. But yeah, so it's finally coming to PlayStation, which is obviously it's great. It just gives that opportunity to the PlayStation boys. There's nothing really too amazing about it. I'm not a massive EA fan. I've got my own issues with them. Like, a lot of their money goes into their sports games.
Yeah.
Don't like their loot boxes. Their practices are a little bit shady. However, something like the new Star Wars game that's coming out, if that's then going to become available via EA Access, then obviously it's great to have it across all the platforms.
They might give out a little early release to those who pay them more.
Yeah, because that's the world we live in at the moment,
Yeah.
Unfortunately. It's a cynical world.
It's a money-driven world.
It's a money-driven world. I mean, that's pretty much every company, isn't it? Which is that's absolutely fine. It's great. Xbox have had it for a while, so now PlayStation's got it, so PlayStation have finally caught up. Hopefully that'll transfer across to the PlayStation 5 when that comes out as well, potentially.
I don't know, transcend the PS5, that sounds good.
It sounds fancier, doesn't it?
Yeah, the PS5 is going to transcend gaming in general. So.
Yeah, the way they're talking about it at the moment.
Exactly.
So this is going to be the usual $5 a month, which in British sterling will probably be £5 a month still, won't it?
Yeah.
And that's £30 a year, or $30 a year.
Price for a game, a second-hand game these days. So
I was going to say a half-price game.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely fine. Again, there's nothing really too much more to say on it. It's nothing too big and fancy. It's another option. If you like your EA games and you are a PlayStation player, then here you go.
But it's another subscription you might have to sign up to.
Yeah, and this is coming in July. So get your wallets out and...
EA will love you.
EA will love you as much as they possibly can do. But going off of that, while we're on this theme of PlayStation, we can't hold it in, or I can't anyway. We're going to talk about State of Play, which was shown on the 9th of May, 11 o'clock British summertime, which for America would be, depending on where you live, 6-7 hours prior, so 5 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And they showed some amazing things. And
Short and sweet, but...
I just want to point out that at the very beginning, the very, very beginning of the State of Play, is they had a little noise, a little ding, which is actually the Final Fantasy VII select noise. When you're on like the main menus and you press yes, it's the little noise. And I was like... It made my... I'm not going to say it. I stood on end. I was
you are the weirdest.
comfortably moist at that point.
You are that fanboy.
I am quite happy to be that fanboy for anything Square Enix. And that's already was giving me chills. And then it starts off with like this Japanese looking trailer. And you start to think, is this going to be more Final Fantasy? But they didn't start off with Final Fantasy. No, they started off with Monster Hunter, which is now going to be in an icy world or a snowy world.
It's a mass expansion.
So it's Monster Hunter Iceborne, I believe it's called.
Yes.
Yep. It looks really good. Snowy environments, which you haven't got in Monster Hunter World.
No, it's all jungles and
jungles
rocky.
and desert and
Volcanoes.
sulfur. Yeah, I was going to say sulfur
Well,
and
there is
volcanoes.
that weird, like, glowy, light, lit up forest thing. It almost looks like it's
one was really
underwater,
cool.
but
I
it's
really
not.
liked. So I really liked Monster Hunter World. Like, really liked it. I think that was
I liked it, but not enough to keep it.
Not enough to keep it, obviously not. It's like that game is really unique and it is fun. It is a little bit of a grind fest. It's like the sort of like the original Destiny of rinse and repeating the same
But it took
bosses
a long
over and
time.
Yeah, obviously there's so much more to it with like obviously monsters changing, becoming more difficult, doing different things. You have to adjust your armor sets, adjust your weapons, yada 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 yada.
Yeah, different types.
But everything that they're showing in Iceborne is obviously snowy environments, new bosses.
Yeah, they got new sort of antagonist, we'll call it.
Yeah, which it basically looks like a bat.
Icy dragon. There's an icy dragon at the end.
Yeah, did you see the massive bat?
Yeah, they've already had bats.
It was a bat that was a dragon.
They've had that already. They had the Pompopoos, whatever they were called.
The Pompopoos.
They were like white albino bats.
Yeah, that blew up. They got
yeah. They've already had that. So it's just
it looked like a vampire. It looked like a
vampire bat,
and it was black.
Never been done before. Vampire bats.
Never
been done before.
Which looked really cool. I didn't see any new weapons or anything like that throughout it, but I did see that there is a new Palico ability, and it looked like sort of like a self-revive if you get downed. There are flying boulders as well. Cool. Yeah, some of the one of the other monsters was like this sort of like land shark, I'm gonna call it, and it spat ice boulders at you. Looked pretty cool. And yeah, they're not showing obviously too much. Did they have a date for that?
Yes, 6th of the 9th, 19.
Which is September, isn't it? 6th of the
Yes.
9th? Yeah. Unless they've got it American and it's backwards,
could be
the
9th
9th of the 6th.
Which means it'd be coming out next month.
We're not very good at getting the dates correct here, are we?
Well, it just gave us numbers. It didn't specify.
Yeah, it doesn't specify.
I think it said 06, 09. So
that doesn't help. It could still be
it's either next month or September.
Yeah, we'll confirm it. We'll confirm it either down below. If not, we'll confirm it when we know.
Yeah.
We'll watch it again. But yeah, it looks really good. If you like your Monster Hunters, if you liked the most recent one on the main consoles, they've been adding more and more to it as they've been going along. It's been looking really good. And just this sort of thing is just all they really need to keep doing. That is keeping that game constantly alive. I know there are loads of people that play it that like they've grinded it so much, then they can just go in and they'll wipe out like the top bosses like no problem whatsoever. So adding to it and keeping people interested, it's a good call, especially since they're not. When I played that game, there was no loot boxes thrown at me or anything like that. So it's proper games as a service as it should be, not like Sea of Thieves. Where they released nothing at the start. So that game's looking really cool, and there's not really much else to say about it. Go and watch it for yourself. The next game they did show was Riverbond, which is coming out this summer. No views on it at all?
It just looks, I don't know, I feel like I've seen it before.
Okay, so essentially it's a dungeon crawler. It's got a pixelized style.
It's like Minecraft, but from above.
Yeah, so if you've ever played Pokemon... what's the pixel Pokemon game called?
Quest?
Yeah, Pokemon Quest. So if you've ever played Pokemon Quest, how like all the Pokemon are made out of like little cubes and whatnot. Riverbond is basically the same sort of style. And then it's a dungeon crawler where you can work with up to 3 other people. So 4-player couch co-op where you run through and you hack and slash your way through a dungeon and get your way to the end and rinse and repeat on the next level and whatnot. And you play as some unique characters. So some like Shovel Knight were on there, which is quite
Guacamelee,
cool.
whatever it's called.
Yeah, the sumo. I think they're called sumos.
There was, the Kid Bastion, something or other.
The Kid Bastion, which
I think it's from Bastion or something.
See, whenever I see Bastion, I just think of Overwatch.
Yeah, ruined.
Which is quite cool. And then you can play as Psychonaut's main character. It's been so long since I've played Psychonauts, I've forgotten his name. Which is really cool again. I like the idea that they've gone with a whole sort of it's a different experience, but you can play as these characters which you already know. It's a good way to draw people into your game.
It's like Smash Bros.
It's not like Smash Bros. It's nothing like Smash Bros. And it's good to like they're utilising and getting an indie game more involved with the AAA titles or the bigger titles that everybody knows and loves. People are more likely to pick up an indie game when they see a character that they love in it. And Shovel Knight gets around so much. Shovel Knight is an amazing indie game as it is, but if people are a little bit skeptical about this, but they love Shovel Knight, they might be more inclined to pick it up. Yeah,
You never know.
you never know. And that looked alright, but other than that, it's a nice small little indie game that's coming out this summer. Next, they did show Predator Hunting Grounds,
Which I thought was Tom Clancy.
which we all thought was Tom Clancy. There was a rumour going round recently that the new Tom Clancy game had been, the new title for a Tom Clancy game had been leaked. So it genuinely wouldn't have surprised me if it was in there.
There was an invisible person. That was Tom Clancy down to a T.
What Tom Clancy have you played where you play as an invisible person?
There's one of them that I played where you turn invisible.
Well, it wasn't Tom Clancy.
No,
we'll
it
leave it
wasn't.
at that.
It wasn't.
This is an asymmetrical online shooter. You're going to have to work together with a team of players to take down the Predator. Sort of like Dead by Daylight.
Prey?
Prey.
Or you have to kill a monster? No?
No?
No, okay.
Are you talking about Prey from Bethesda? The game made by Bethesda?
Yeah, I think so. No, not Prey. Evolve.
Yes, I was gonna say. I was thinking I'm thinking of Evolve, but like yeah. So,
Yeah,
so
Evolve,
Evolve is very much a similar sort of basis.
Yeah.
So where you've got a group of hunters having to take down a monster, and it works the same sort of way. You'll have to cooperate with your teammates to try and take down a predator. They didn't show any gameplay footage or anything at all. They've just shown a couple of guys walking through a jungle and then something invisible. Which they didn't show. You know what I mean.
There's
you
a
see
perfect-
the outline.
You see like the mirage, like the shimmer, and then they become
The
visible
mirage,
again. Yeah.
So it's. I mean, I'm not one that is completely fond of movie change ups into games and whatnot. Like sometimes they can do it quite well and it can be quite fun. But until I see some proper footage and know what this is all about, it's not something to get your hopes up
It's a
about.
no from me.
It's a no. It's a no from me. But if you're a Predator fan, there's a Predator game coming out in 2020.
We'll get back to that.
We'll get back. Yeah,
In 2020.
we'll come back to that at a later date. Medieval made a reappearance. Now, Medieval, the remake, and this is a...
Or was it remaster?
No, it's a
No one
remake.
knows.
It's not the ultra confusion of a remake and remaster. This is a proper remake of the original. So, when the original got released on PlayStation 1, was well received, a great staple for PlayStation. And then when the PSP came out, they then remade it differently. Still a remake. They made the game again, but obviously just changed up a couple of the elements of the story. The levels were different, and everything was a little bit changed, and it was all right. It didn't have
condensed to be on a PSP.
Yeah, it didn't have the same essence that the original game had. It was just sort of like you could see that they made this game for PSP. And they were like, oh, well, we'll make it a little bit different. But they didn't think too much as to how making it different would have affected it. But now they're re-releasing it as a proper, full-blown remake. So it's scale to scale with the original PlayStation 1 game. And it looks cool. What do you think? Have you played Medieval before?
I've seen you play a bit of the first one on the original PlayStation.
When did you see me play that?
Honestly, I was downstairs somewhere. I'm sure. You could just run out this skeleton in a suit of armor. You were just spinning around.
Yeah, that does sound about right. So they showed some of the intro scenes, and they showed it in 4K, where it looks really good. It looks well polished. It looks like everything that you want out of these remakes.
I was getting Darksider vibes from it.
I've not played Darksiders, so...
No, it looks quite all that sort of like haunty sort of...
I mean, most of the people that would be interested in this game, chances are, will have already played it in the past, I would have thought. Otherwise, it just looks like a bit of an indie title.
Yeah.
But with PlayStation, if they push it enough, then it can do well.
I'd play it now.
Yeah. After seeing me spin around and play it a little bit, like, is it all right? Okay.
Nothing you did.
No. And yeah, so they showed a little bit more of the in-game play footage. Looks really fun. Looks really fluent. Again, it's all directly from the PlayStation 1, so everything. You'll be playing a game of nostalgia. Exactly the same as like Spyro, Reignited Trilogy. You'll just be playing pure nostalgia, and it will be great fun. And it's coming out on October 25th, which is just in time for Halloween. So if you are a bit of an introvert and you like to sit indoors, on Halloween and ignore the doorbell when the kids
That's what I did. I turned all my lights off, sat there in the dark when they rang. Not happening.
Nobody even comes to my house. I'm probably just known as everyone just sees me as just that grumpy
knock on
lady.
his door.
Nobody knocks on the 18 door. It's scary. So that's something I'll probably be doing on October 31st. And this is something that I've always thought, like, I've had, like, with PlayStation and the way they've been promoting these games and whatnot. Now, obviously, they've done this remake. It's probably come across by the fact that Crash Bandicoot remake did really well. And then, obviously, Spyro remake did really well. That's probably where, like, obviously, they announced the Medieval remake a couple of years ago now. But like, they're getting a lot. It's the same sort of essence, as they know that these remakes are doing well, and it's good to encourage more. I would love if PlayStation offered this for free for PlayStation Plus members, because it's not too massive of a game. It's like, it's a game you can complete within like 6 or 7 hours. But it is an amazing title, and it is a remake. That is something that I think PlayStation could take advantage of if they offered that up for free with PlayStation Plus.
Or a reduced price or something at least.
I'm sure they'll do a reduced price, but it could draw so many people in from something like that. It could get so many people to pick up another PlayStation, or it could just
release it with a console or something like that.
Yeah, it's a nostalgia trip for a lot of people, and that looks really good, and I can't wait for that. The next game, Luke was a massive fan of. Looks amazing.
There's no point.
There is. So this game is called Away.
Dark Squirrels.
No. What do you think it's about? What would you think it was about if you just heard the name Away for a game?
I don't know, someone's gone away and you're in like a haunted house.
Yeah. Would you think of a squirrel, a flying squirrel, and you've got to attack other animals?
No.
Well, that's what you're getting.
Because that's not a game that anyone needs or wants.
It is. So all we've seen of this game so far...
You said it was a skunk.
It looked like a skunk at first. So all we've seen of this game so far is that you're a flying squirrel, you go along the environments, and you can attack other creatures.
And avoid other creatures.
You can sit on a deer and ride a deer.
We saw that.
You can fly next to birds when you're flying through the air.
We saw a squirrel do a Dark Souls roll away from a scorpion.
Yeah, that was...
It is Dark Souls Squirrel Edition. This is ridiculous.
Everyone wants to get in on those Dark Souls vibes.
A squirrel do a barrel roll in real life, then I'll take my hat off to this and I'll buy this game
while fighting a scorpion.
Exactly. Until then, no. It's I just can't. If we allow this stuff open-heartedly into our gaming platforms, then it's not even a simulator. It's not even like Squirrel Simulator.
So the point of the game Away is to just survive.
That's what they said. It's just like, what?
It does look I thought it looked fun. I think that is a game where you would sit down of an evening with your partner and you'd say, got this new game.
It's like playing the Discovery Channel. No, thank you.
What Discovery? I mean, I'm not even going to go down that route. I mean, it's going to be weird to see what they do with the combat, if the combat is as in-depth as...
Bite, tail whip.
No, you're talking Pokemon now. Right. And then,
I'm sorry. The game with animals that make sense.
It does look quite relaxing, and to a somewhat sort of degree. It looks relaxing, the bits where you're like playing as a squirrel and you're jumping through the trees, and then you're gliding and you're exploring. That looks really nice and fun. I bet you though, the combat, you're going to be I need to get out of here. Unless you do like proper, like every time it went to go, like it showed the squirrel like traversing across
I'm
like
pretty
a
sure.
log, and then it like came up to a crab, and then as it jumped, it came up with like a red indicator on the
Yeah,
crab.
I was lock on.
Yeah, it's either lock on, or it's sort of like, oh, that's what your target is. It's just sort of like, that was like a sneak attack. That was a backstab, sort of. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've got that. You do get this.
Did
like,
I
sort
get
of like,
backstabbed by a squirrel?
by a flying squirrel. Get it correct.
We don't have flying squirrels over here, do we?
That it's going to be an interesting to see what they put in combat wise for this game. I know you're not a big fan of it. I like the look of it. I think that looks well fun. Not a £60 game unless they show more. Like the squirrel evolves and gets a tank or something. I don't know.
What, because worms?
It just turns into it. Can like the game is so. They showed so much, yet so little, because you do sit there and you watch it and you're just like, what are they trying to show me here? All I've just watched is a squirrel jump between trees and take on a scorpion and a crab.
And swim on the, stand on the deer's back
Stand on a deer's
while they were
back.
swimming.
Yeah, that was cute.
Yeah, but there's fire everywhere, so it's going to be a bit of, like, is it going to die?
But with the barrel roll, like showing something like that, where the barrel roll of the squirrel fighting the scorpion, to me says that the combat is more in depth than just sort of, oh, there's a scorpion here, you need to avoid it. So it's going to be less of an exploration game.
If it just jumped out the way, I could appreciate that.
Just stop going on about it now. If when he'd gone into combat with the scorpion, the idea had been for him to get out the way, then you would look at this and go like, oh, I can see the survival element in this, because you're trying to avoid these animals that are trying to attack you or eat you. But it wasn't, because you do
a little arena.
Because you do. Because you do a direct roll avoiding his attack, that is immediately saying to me, like, oh, you're going to counteract that. You're going to go in and you're going to bite at its tail or
like
whatever.
Nibble its leg, yeah.
So we've got to see more of this.
And the scorpion was massive, like it was bigger than a squirrel.
So we'll talk more about this when we get more information. We're going to stop now before Luke's head explodes.
I just don't get it.
Which is going to be, no doubt, probably at E3 next month. Days of Play PS4 limited edition. This was also displayed. There's nothing much really else to say. It's a limited edition PlayStation. On the top of it it has the symbols of the controller, so X, square, circle, and triangle, sort of like laser embossed. That's the correct word, isn't it? Into the embossed into the top of the PlayStation. Looked quite cool, looked quite fancy. A little bit of I'm going to say a silver grey.
They said, was it gunmetal polish or something?
There we go, gunmetal polish. Sort of like a flying squirrel grey sort of colour.
Black and white badger skunk that can do backflips.
And it looks alright. It's a bit late in the console's life cycle, especially when you get these rumours that the PlayStation 5 is coming out next year. It's a little bit late to be bringing out these sorts of things.
Well, Xbox
I think
have done something similar. They've brought out like consoles based on certain games. So
yeah, but stop doing that this late into a cycle.
Stab it.
Just don't do it. I don't really want to buy a new console and then 6 months down the line they then say, oh nah, we've brought the next one out.
Another new console.
You've just wasted your money. That's what it says to me, which is a little bit. I mean, this is a completely different conversation as it is. But when should these console makers be announcing these new consoles? Because if someone buys, say for example, this time next year, the PlayStation 5 is announced. Would you be willing to go out and buy a PlayStation 4 now, knowing that in a year's time a PlayStation 5 will be coming out?
Only if I needed one.
Right. But we haven't been told at the moment. So somebody might be on the same sort of position as you, just sort of like, well, I don't need a PS4, but seeing as there's no other consoles about at the moment, I'll go out and get it. A year down the line, boom.
Yeah, you're
behind now.
Stung, yeah.
So it's just one of those things. We'll talk about that more in depth at a later date again, because we have to get onto the big, important, super exciting news.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VII Remake. They finally, after so many years, so much pain, turmoil, punishment,
tears,
excruciating torture.
You said torture already, didn't you?
I don't care. I'll say it 6 more times. They finally showed more footage of the remake, and not only have they shown more footage, they've shown Aerith, which she looks amazing. She looks exactly like you'd want her to, and a glimpse, and I mean this, a glimpse. You don't see the front, but you see the back and a little bit of hair of Sephiroth. Super important details. And it looks so cool. I'm going to talk here for 5 minutes. Luke's not going to say anything. This game looks amazing. If you can judge in silence, you can have your own views and opinions on this. You are probably going to be wrong. So obviously,
I was going to say it's quite good, but
shut up. So first of all, can I just state that they're going to be showing more of this game in June at E3, which is going to be super, super good. I can't wait. I really can't wait. But while we're talking about this, what they've shown is basically they've shown a little bit more of the Cloud talking. They've shown his new redesign, because a lot of people were a little bit skeptical about his last appearance, where they showed him, Biggs, Wedge and Barrett, and he looked a little bit sort of skinny, a little bit too skinny, a little bit gaunt, I'm going to say is the right word.
What's wrong with skinny people?
I wasn't saying it was bad, it just doesn't look like him. So they filled him out a little bit more now. He looks amazing. It looks really good. And we've seen some more of the voice acting between him and Aerith. Oh, it's just, yeah, all really good there. And showed some more combat. All they're showing at the moment is like the first sort of 2 hours of Final Fantasy VII, the original. So it's just sort of like going through the Mako reactor. After the Mako reactor, Cloud comes into contact with Aerith when they're blowing up the reactor. So they're showing a little bit of that. They've shown a little bit of the Scorpion boss, which is really cool. It did show as well, in the bottom right hand corner, it showed Tifa as part of the party, but I didn't see her. I mean, I might go through and watch it again. I couldn't see her.
I'm sure you will.
I will happily keep all eyes open for her. But, so that's obviously quite cool. I mean, we all knew Tifa was going to be a playable or a character in there anyway. Just everything. If they showed Cross Slash, one of the moves, this makes no sense to you, does it, Lee?
I imagine it's some sort of slash
it's a move.
Across.
It's a move. You've played Smash Bros. It's in that. So
they've showed
they have shown. So in this trailer, they showed Aerith, they showed more graphics, they showed talking, which is weirdly a big thing for me. They've shown just more of the environment, how it's more interactable. Like, you can clamber in this, and you can, like, shimmy, sort of, like, climb.
Oh, you're one of those mantle lovers.
No, I don't love... No,
we discussed this last
week.
We're
not talking about that. Like, you can... He grabs onto the side and he's like shimmying across. You don't get that in a Final Fantasy. It's like Tomb Raider now. This game is shaping up to be like 8 games into one game. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait. Unless Square Enix screw it up. All those loot boxes. One of those two.
Oh.
Which they won't do. They won't do. It's just looking absolutely perfect. And then they've shown Sephiroth at the end of it, where you see his back and they're building anticipation and obviously saying there's more coming in June. Which is absolutely perfect. This is all everyone wanted. This anybody that's a Final Fantasy fan or a Final Fantasy VII fan, anyway, this is all they wanted. It's just sort of just a little nudge. Just say, taste the water, taste the sap of goodness, and that's what we got. And it's that's all I've been waiting for.
Sounds like a thirst trap.
I don't care what you want to describe it as. It's looking good, and. That's all you can really want from it. I mean, there is something that I'll make a separate video on about this. They're showing more of this combat that looks a little bit like Final Fantasy 15 mixed with Kingdom Hearts 3, where it's a little bit more free movement and shooting and attacks and whatnot. To me, it's modern and it looks amazing. A lot of people want turn-based combat. Have you played many turn-based combat games?
Blue Dragon.
Yeah, so how old is Blue Dragon? It's about...
Oh, God, it's on 360,
So over 10 years old now, I would say Blue Dragon is.
Yeah.
I think it's actually 11 years old or 12 years old.
Yeah.
Turn-based combat is fine for certain games, and I'm not discouraging turn-based combat from Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'm not saying that it wouldn't work, but what I do like is the fact that you've got this modern, beautiful game that looks and feels incredible, from what I'm seeing so far anyway. I don't want my combat to me just be stood there and just pressing up and down and pressing X. I do understand the whole sort of tactics and whatnot behind it, but the free movement makes it look nice. And I do want, if you're remaking a game for graphics, this is what everyone's argument is we just want a remake of graphics, and it's, yes, that's fine, you can have a remake of graphics, but if you're going for beauty and whatnot, then make the combat look beautiful. I don't want this unbelievably 4K resed Sephiroth and Cloud having a fight and they're just stood still 99% of the time.
Combat in The Sims, isn't it?
Exactly. We've got these modern systems and they can implement it well and it can work really well. Kingdom Hearts 2, Kingdom Hearts 3's combat is so fluent and so fun, and it's really enjoyable to do. It's a little bit basic in Kingdom Hearts, which is why Final Fantasy VII, they will go, all right, we've got a mature audience here. We'll show them how it's done. And I think that they can do something great. As long as they keep the materia system somewhat relevant, then it will work really well. And they don't do any of this sort of limited amount of casts and sort of thing. I think it's going to be good. Whew, right, I fanboyed over. No, I don't think. I know. Fanboy over. And that's what they finished the state of play on. Which, I'm going to have a breather. Which is all great. Compared to the last state of play, how do you feel as though this one went?
The last one was just VR, VR, VR. So I was glad to not see any of that, because VR holds little for us in terms of gaming. And it wasn't a shitty Iron Man.
Yeah, it's still embedded in your brain, that game, isn't it?
Oh, it's a stain.
It's a stain. It's because they've shown a couple of AAA titles. It's drawing people in, like Monster Hunter World. I've never played a Monster Hunter before Monster Hunter World, and I fell in love with Monster Hunter World. So I wouldn't say I'm a massive fanboy. I've not gone back and played some of the prior games, but just seeing something like that, them using this announcement platform to announce these massive games and show more footage and something as big as that, it's giving the encouragement of people to say, no, come to our state of plays, look what we're showing, rather than showing us Iron Man and me going, why am I watching this? It's vitally important that they've done something like this. And the Final Fantasy VII remake, that is an important staple to put in there. And obviously they've said, there's going to be more at E3 in June, which is great. Square Enix will probably have their own showcase for it. However, PlayStation aren't there at E3, so they weren't going to be able to show it there. So they've gotten this foot in the door by already saying, yeah, you're going to be thinking about us all of E3 before E3.
Well, they stole the thunder.
Yeah, so nobody wants to. I don't need E3 now. I've seen Final Fantasy VII. I need them to release more footage.
But it will be in June, won't it? So you do need it.
Yeah, but if it didn't exist, then they would just go, all right, well, we'll let PlayStation show some more footage on their next state of play. And then I would be even more interested in PlayStation then. They're doing well. And I think this is a massive, massive, colossal step in the right direction, especially compared to their last state of play.
Definitely. Just for removing VR alone.
Yeah. You really hate VR, don't you?
I don't get it.
You don't get it?
I just don't get VR games.
Some of them look fun. Beat Saber, Rick and Morty, Daily Job.
No.
Oh, you're not a big Rick and Morty fan.
I don't like Rick and Morty. No.
Well, this is why.
It's not.
This
it's
is
not
why
easy.
People will not like you.
It's just not a gaming equipment that I can feel. It's just, you can't just put it on and play. It's a whole load of issues.
You have to be willing and wanting to play it,
and you're very limited to what you
rather than you come home from work and you just go, oh, I'll just stick something on.
Yeah.
And then with your potato fingers, you poke a couple of directions and you download your game. You're like, I'll play that.
Exactly.
So state of play, less VR and more focus on the AAA titles with a couple of smaller games in between.
Some squirrels.
Obviously, some flying squirrels. I think they did really well, and I am
And they kept it short.
so
and sweet,
looking
which is
forward.
good.
Yeah, I'm so looking forward to E3 now. Just for the Square Enix showcase. I mean, there's nothing else really to be said. Lastly, on PlayStation, is they did announce their monthly games as well, or they've released their monthly games is probably the more appropriate term. I mean, today's the 9th, realistically. We probably should have reported on this last week. We're a little bit slow.
Didn't think about it. There's a lot to talk about last week, so...
Yeah. But this month on PlayStation, there is Overcooked, an amazing game.
Infuriating if you're playing it with an inept other half, or a second player.
Your other half's just crap. Which is fine. Overcooked is really, really good. It is a great couch co-op, unbelievably great couch co-op, and it is just fun, sweet, lovely little independent game. And there is an Overcooked 2 now as well, so it's a great build into that. So you play Overcooked 1 if you like it. Encourage you to get Overcooked 2. The other game they did announce as well, or it has been released, is Adventures of Edith Finch.
What happened to Edith?
What remains, actually.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
you got it wrong. I got it wrong first, but you got it wrong second. And that's a walking simulator. I've not played this myself. Have you played it?
I've not played it, but I've seen a lot of gameplay of it, and it's not the sort of game you think it is.
Well, explain it
So
to me.
you start off... I was about to get there! Gee. So you start off you play as a girl who's, if I remember correctly, she's walking into this her old house,
Right.
or an old house, maybe not hers. I think she's been bequeathed it or something.
Bequeathed.
Yeah, when you give it in a will.
Oh, right,
Sorry.
okay, yeah.
And she's trying to find out about the sort of family that was living there, and she goes through certain rooms are locked off.
Yeah.
It looks like they just up and left in this house, sort of unexplained, and you follow through the house and go through a few bits, and you start reading journals and diaries and things, and you start to sort of piece together sort of what happens, and then you go into this little girl's room, and you got this weird story how she suddenly turns into a cat, and she jumps out of the window and eats a bird, and then she turns into the bird, and then she kills a rabbit.
Are you still the same girl from the start?
No, that's the thing. You go into this other girl's room, and then you see this, what happened to her. And you go through everything. Suddenly you become a rabbit, and then you become another animal.
Squirrel.
No. Squirrels. And you just evolve into bigger and bigger animals.
Yeah.
Because she was hungry or something. Yeah.
Sounds intriguing. I mean, I'm not a big fan of walking simulators. I need to see a little bit of guts, gore, action, or boobs in my games. Normally, it's what keeps me going. Really, it sounds alright.
It's like a storytelling game, like an interactive story sort of thing, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, I did play Gone Home. Is that? Yeah, it's Gone Home. The one where it's a walking simulator and you're going through a house, you're finding out what's happened, why she's come home, sort of thing. It's not a very long game, but it's quite interesting. And they can be sort of interesting. They're quite fun. I'm not sure it's worth going out of your way getting PlayStation Plus membership for these two games, because you could get yourself Overcooked, and you'd want to keep that permanently offline anyway, which is great fun. But the problem that PlayStation have got at the moment, and a lot of people are unhappy about the fact that these two games that have come this month, don't get me wrong, they've got a good reputation and they're well loved, but they're not pumping out very many games, and people seem to prefer to have big AAA titles that are quite old just sort of handed up. This is where Xbox and Microsoft have done quite well, because they've got backwards compatibility. They can give you these really old games for free in the gold, which works really well. And this is something that's a little bit controversial. You've got to find out where you sort of fit with it, because PlayStation have actually taken away PlayStation Vita games and PlayStation 3 games from their monthly games. But they haven't upped the ante with the PlayStation 4 games they are offering, which is a little bit...
Leaves you a bit...
sour-mouthed.
They're taking something away. They're not replacing it with something else, which you then feel like you're losing value for money.
Yeah, so, I mean, there are a lot of people that are going to be upset about it. I don't think it's anything to be too worried about. PlayStation Vita and the PlayStation 3 games, ask yourself honestly, how many of them were you playing when they were coming out? I was downloading them, and they were just sitting there. I think I only played probably about like 6 or 7 over the 3 years that I had the PlayStation Plus membership and was collecting them. And that's pretty much sort of like the best way to take away from it. I mean, it would be nice to see more available, but again, this is where it comes back to what the PlayStation 5 offers. If it has that backwards compatibility all the way to PlayStation 1, they could just go, here you go. Monthly game of October will give you Medieval on PlayStation 1 and Medieval 2 on PlayStation 1 as your free games. Really big, interesting titles from an old time where you can't even buy that game anymore. So you're still giving money to those publishers and whatnot. It's perfect. That's what they should be doing. And that is what Xbox is doing correctly at the moment. And just before we go on to Xbox and their gold games, Monster Hunter World was September. That's what, if you heard my phone ping about 3 or 4 minutes ago, it was reminding me that it was in September that the new Monster Hunter game
I was right.
Yeah, the new Monster Hunter expansion, which is quite cool. But Xbox, what were their gold games this month, Luke?
So we had what I've read for ages as Outlast.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, that's pretty good. No, it's actually Outcast. Second Contact.
So not an expansion to Outlast.
No. I don't even know if it's a prequel or a sequel to something. It might, if there's an Outcast.
I believe it's actually.
Contact.
I believe that's a remaster. I think is what that game was. And it believe back on the Xbox 360 is it got relatively okay reviews. But what we've seen of it is it's just sort of.
The demo video you get on the Xbox store did not paint a very good picture for this game.
Yeah.
It looked like a very old game that had a retexture, and not even a very good retexture.
Yeah, it's not looking particularly anything special.
The jumping animation, oh my God, I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, it's not looking that great. It's not something that you'd probably want to go out of your way to try and get, I would say.
No one's buying this game.
No one. Yeah, you'd be glad to play it for free, knowing that you didn't have to pay for it. Put it that way. It's just in the modern day, there is so many games available, and a lot of them are really cheap. So when you look at something like that and you think, all right, okay, that's only a tenner. Yeah, don't get me wrong, only a tenner. It's not too bad. You could have your fun with it, but a tenner could buy you an incredibly good game still.
Yeah.
What else was there?
So we had the Marooners,
which is the multiplayer.
Yes, which I thought
co-op game.
At first didn't look great, but then when you actually get into it, it is a little party game.
Yeah, so lots of little mini games, and then you constantly changing environments and challenges and whatnot, which seemed really cool.
Yep, up to 6-player, couch co-op, online, or a mixture, which is nice to see a combination of all three.
Yeah.
And actually, once you get into it, it does look quite fun. A bit of sort of a WarioWare party game where it's constantly changing. You're trying to screw your mates over. So another game that it'll be a case of you make that game fun for yourself, sort of thing. Yeah. So
until you get your two mates that will always team up against you.
I've downloaded it and I'm going to get them to do the same and give it a go.
What? Team up against you?
No. I'll do the teaming.
No. Yeah, and anything else?
And the third, Earth Defense Force Insect Armageddon, which is the backwards compatible for the original Xbox.
Yeah.
Or 360, one of the two.
Xbox 360,
yeah,
pretty sure it is. And that game looks sort of okay.
Looks old.
Yeah.
Even for a 360 game, it looks old, I felt. But I said it could be a nostalgia trip for someone. So.
Yeah, it's nothing too fancy. Again, like I know we were literally just saying how PlayStation's not pumping out that great of games for its PlayStation Plus members, but this month for Xbox isn't sounding that great either, to be honest.
No, we've definitely had better months.
Yeah, Star Wars last month. It's just when you go from something like Star Wars Battlefront 2, and you go down to something like this, where, don't get me wrong, Maruna sounds really fun. The other two, I'm just sort of like, they're the games that you just put on your hard drive and you never touch them.
I won't even put them on my hard drive.
Well, there we go. Won't even let them grace my
Not
console.
even worth a space in my hard drive. And the next thing, the thing that I'm looking forward to, as opposed to your Final Fantasy VII.
Yep, do share.
We have seen, and they've announced the network test for Code Vein. And they showed 50 minutes of gameplay footage.
How's it looking?
Very good.
Very boobalicious. That's what I'm going to call it.
It is anime, so
anime Dark Souls,
anime
what
Dark Souls
everyone's
been
calling
coined.
it.
Yeah.
Take us through it.
So, it's obviously we now get a bit more about the vampiric side of things. We've seen actual people biting each other's wrists and things. So, but aside from that, we've not actually seen much in terms of the vampire aspect into it. It doesn't seem to have much in the way of the combat. But they showed us a little bit more inside to sort of the types of character roles that are available. You start off with pretty much a standard set 3, a fighter, ranger, and caster. But they have announced that you can later unlock later ones, and they've announced a berserker, which obviously is a heavy, sort of slow character, very weapon driven, and a Prometheus, which is like a fast attack sort of character, so like just a quicker, more melee version that people may prefer, because also not everyone likes swinging massive great axes. They discuss a little bit more about how you can build your characters as well, how you can inherit certain abilities from other classes and combine it with others. So you could be a fighter that can use caster abilities, so become like a battle mage sort of person, which is interesting because you're not then sort of assigning yourself to a certain role and potentially getting bored of that role, especially if you want to then see someone else using a certain character that you're interested in. You could then work into that. We had a few glimpses at some of the weapons. Some of them look very cool. Some of them are just
a massive slab of concrete as a weapon.
It looked like a bit of a pillar, didn't it? I mean, which is interesting. Obviously, it's a viable weapon. Dark Souls had literally like sticks with boulders on the end at some point. So
was it Dragon's Tooth, where it's it's like 3 times the size of your body, and you're gripping like the thin end of the tooth, and you just slap people with it, and it's like really strong, isn't it? Yeah,
I mean, some of the swords, they just look like little bits of molten lava with a stick in the end. So it's nice to see that they're not sort of taking, everything's not like lovely and fancy, and there are some like, I mean, at one point you're beating someone up with a pipe, so you start off pretty basic, which said it made it a bit interesting. You're not sort of starting out all this sort of fancy warhammers and things. They mentioned a bit more about how armor and clothing isn't just sort of an aesthetical thing or like a passive ability. It does actually influence your abilities. And
a little bit more in depth than Dark Souls then.
Yes, Dark Souls case if you wear this if you need a bit more damage resistance or poison resistance.
Yeah, exactly.
Or if you just fashion Souls it wouldn't look good, just wore whatever the hell didn't go together. Blocking doesn't seem to be a massive thing in this. They did mention a parry. But the gameplay, at least when I sort of skimmed through it, didn't want to spoil too much. Didn't show much in the way of sort of how parrying works, and if you get like critical stabs off the back of a successful parry, which I think is what you get a parry for. But
we might go along the whole lines of if you parry it, then you get sort of like 3 seconds of open time to get a few attacks in, which is quite cool.
But the thing I've noticed most is that this game seems to be drawing on a lot of different aspects from the 3 sort of major sort of From Software games. So obviously we've got the Dark Souls aspect of you accrue your funds. If you die, you lose them, but you can then go and pick them up. And you've got certain areas in which you can rest at. Then we've also seen what we believe to be like a stagger bar near your health bar, which obviously then looks a bit like what Sekiro was offering, where you could be stun locked, parried, and things like that. And they've also announced sort of near end game there is
Chalice Dungeons. Or
Yeah, like
this game's
what-
equivalent.
Yeah, like what Bloodborne did. So you basically go in, there's past set areas, and you need to get more keys to unlock then more areas. So they seem to be sort of piggybacking all these sort of cool ideas from these other games and sort of influencing and implementing it into their own. So I think it's got all the good things of all these very good games. So hopefully they do it well.
Yeah, so with it being obviously anime, it means that they're so much more open to what,
Yes.
like what you could do. And don't get me wrong, like Dark Souls and Bloodborne and
You could do
Sekiro,
a
they're not.
dragon.
Yeah, like some of the stuff that you can do in there, where you like cast and like a lot of it seems to have sort of like a medieval sort of magic sort of vibe to it. Or obviously not in the case of Sekiro, but you do have sort of like, oh yes, I've got a spell where I can hold my staff up in the air and it'll shoot a laser beam at the enemy.
Yeah.
I can take it from like sort of like knights in armor and you holding a staff up and it doing that. That's okay. I've seen Lord of the Rings. I've seen Gandalf. He does the same sort of things. I've learned to accept it. However, because it's now anime or anime-ish, it means that they're so much more open. And there was a couple of attacks that we were watching in this gameplay footage where he just like these snakes just sort of like weave out of his back and then just start like grabbing enemies and like shredding them.
Scorpion tail.
Yeah, it looks really weird, but they can do that because it's not.
It's anime. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's what you
and
expect.
Like, all the girls in it have massive boobs.
There's only one girl in it.
Exactly, all of the girls in it have massive
And in the
boobs.
subtitles, she was just girl in white.
Yeah, they didn't even give her a name. You just got to focus on her chest.
Breasticles.
And that's okay. Bandai Namco makes some very interesting games. I wouldn't say they're all amazing, but I'd say they've got a very, very good reputation. It's going to be interesting to see how they pull this off and what they do with it. I think it's looking quite good. The combat is, don't get me wrong, we're saying it's a sort of like an anime Dark Souls. The combat is Dark Souls like in the essence of you can get fucked up very quickly, very easily if you make some severe mistakes. But from what we're seeing is it's sort of like the mistakes that you will make is like being sort of underleveled. So we're seeing it and there doesn't seem to be too much in the way of like dodging. There is obviously the odd roll sort of thing. But for the most part, it didn't seem like it was too much of, oh, get a couple of strikes in here, then back off.
No.
Get a couple of strikes in, oh, then back off. And you've all, by the looks of it, you've always got a partner with you as well, which would be great for co-op. I'd like to hope.
It didn't seem very good though. For what we did see, we were getting
the co-ops didn't seem very good. But like the way the slashing and the weapons and everything worked, it looks really cool and interesting, but it isn't close enough to Dark Souls-esque for me to say it's like a Dark Souls ripoff. It's got its own elements and it's got its own rhythm and its own style and like all of these abilities and whatnot you can learn and then trade off into different skill trees and whatnot and learn certain things. It's going to make it more focusing on what you can make yourself able to do rather than rolling as much as possible and drinking whenever you're low on health.
Dark Souls,
which is quite is like Dark Souls has done really well for itself because it's made a really simplistic idea of just kill the enemy before it kills you, and they've just taken that and they've just advanced it a little bit more. Like, oh, you need to make sure you don't get hit by this attack, make sure you get your attacks in, and then health and damage sort of fluctuates it. That's like the simplicity of Dark Souls. Whereas in this, it looks like it's going to be a little bit more difficult and more interesting in the sense of if you're going up against this type of enemy, you need to have this correct type of counteraction because otherwise you've got no chance. And that's the elements that I'm getting from it.
Definitely. Dark Souls was much a case of do well with what you have or keep doing it until you get better.
Yeah.
Unless you want to go pro and literally punch everything to death over the course of 3 hours.
Yeah. There are some people out there with these sorts of games that they play them so much and they get so good at them that you can see somewhere down the line there's going to be a couple of weird ass weapons in this game, and there's going to be one that's going to be something like a pillow talk from Bayonetta and it's going to be like, and it's going to do like one damage every hit, and someone will go through this game
Yep.
on bongos while blindfolded, while
Playing in
being
the other room.
while upside down and have hot dogs fired at their face, and they will still be in it and
Without getting hit.
Yeah, and it'll be amazing. Like, it's opening up a lot of opportunities, and it's a nice, refreshing looking game. It looks really weird to see like all these anime characters, because they just like in anime, like the characters stand out so much more than the background and whatnot, and the background characters and whatnot. But there's loads of like elements of demons and how like the blood takes over, and if somebody goes and they don't come back. That was one thing we did notice, is that if you've ever watched any anime in English, you'll notice that sometimes it seems almost a little bit cringy, some of the ways that they talk, like, oh lord, his power is now way stronger than his, how will I ever do this? And you've got that cringy English anime voice in this as well.
I would, if this game has the option to have Japanese with English subtitles like Sekiro, I think I would.
Yeah, I think I'd prefer it as well. It's not so bad when you have to read it, and also then if your parents come into the room, they won't want to read it, and they'll just hear Japanese voices, so they would just ignore you.
Exactly. That's what
it's less
you want,
embarrassing.
isn't it?
Yeah, well, you don't want your parents walking in when you see this girl with massive boobies at the start.
Yes, Mum, I speak Japanese.
And that's sort of like the main things that have been announced this week. We're going to do a new section now, and we're going to do this at the end of every podcast. And this section is called
Wind Down.
Yep, I forgot it again. So we're just going to basically fire off a quick few little tidbits and items that have cropped up over the week that we just didn't get a chance to talk about.
Not major gaming news, but just things that people might be...
Yeah. So, Luke, take it away.
So, going back to Borderlands 3, obviously everyone is still pumped for that. But there was a little bit of an uproar on Twitter. I noticed a few tweets from the voice of Claptrap and how he won't be returning to the third, which is...
It's sad.
It's sad, no, because he was the iconic voice, and he is 90% of the humour.
Wow, 90% of the humour of Claptrap. There's a lot of other funny moments.
Yeah, but Claptrap was the MVP of humour in that game.
Yeah,
those games,
and he's not coming back. And like from the tweet that I saw, is he's saying that he's basically not getting paid enough. It's probably the nicest way to put it. I don't know why you would take to Twitter to say that, but obviously he wants fans to be a little bit riled up as well.
Could be using his fan base to
try and get somewhere, but which is a shame, really. It would.
But the Claptrap voice that we heard in the demos and releases we've seen
seems good as well.
Perfectly acceptable.
I mean, let's be honest.
I might not have even noticed.
Auto-tuning and whatnot is so good nowadays.
I mean,
you don't even have to have the same voice actor. They could have just hired some random guy, giving him half the pay, and then just
they're
spent
a little bit robot filter on either way. So
which is fine. It's a bit of a shame, but
to be honest, I probably not have even noticed if I hadn't seen it beforehand. But there we go.
No. Next is Crash Team Racing. Is going to have customizable races, which we sort of already knew. You could see that they would have like different cars, but they've just shown a little bit more. So like things like funky top hats.
I think they got a big pair of teeth at one point.
That's just fake Crash probably, which is quite cool. They're just showing a little bit more in depth, the customization. The thing that I am worried about though,
you buy all these aesthetic items.
Yeah, it would be just like Mortal Kombat 11, 6,440 quid.
Win 10,000 races and in 30 seconds to unlock for free.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be. Let's hope that they don't go down that route. It's gonna be a shame if they do. A real big shame if they go down the loot boxes. But
I can't see them doing it.
You can't see them doing it.
They better not. Not to Crash.
But I still think it will happen.
It's entirely possible for that sort of... When you add aesthetical items that said it could either be unlocked, then yes, you've instantly got that. Those microtransaction warning alarms going off in your head.
Which is fine. But I'm just not going to do it. I just don't even want to consider it. But obviously this was coming out on June 21st, so it's not too far away.
Nope.
Just over a month. And it's something that I'm definitely looking forward to. I'll put it on the pre-order list, Rooney. I don't do that for very many games, but seeing as it's coming out at a reasonable £35, and I love that game, and I beat everybody I've ever known at that game because I'm amazing. There is very few games that I'm smugly good at, and Crash Team Racing.
Oh yeah, so very few.
Crash Team Racing is.
What about Mario Kart? You good at Mario Kart?
Mario Kart, no.
No.
I'm alright. I'm alright at it, but I'm not.
Alright, by
Crash Team Racing.
I don't think I've ever played Crash Team Racing.
Well, this is where you're going to have the most fun you've ever had.
Not playing it against
this
you.
Summer. No, you will play it against me.
Absolutely
and you
not.
will lose.
If I beat you, it's going to be a long and a hard fall from fame.
Yeah.
Grace.
What else has been announced this week? There was some other interesting little bits of news.
So we had a few bits in terms of Days Gone and its sort of launch sales, which isn't sort of groundbreaking news, but it just added sort of a little bit of should we say,
extra layers to understanding in Japanese buying.
It's just confused why they did this article sort of focused on Japan, but
so essentially what happened is God of War 3 got released in Japan as well as Days Gone. However, the number of sales
it's 4
was massively different.
God of War 4.
God of War 4, not 3.
Yeah,
my bad.
Sad,
well,
bad
it's just called God of War. But yeah, so take us through it.
So this is based on the first 2 days of sales for these two games. So Days Gone sold 114,319 copies, whereas God of War only sold 46,091, which is still a massive amount.
Wow.
But
yeah,
well under half what Days Gone had.
Yeah, which is a bit of a shame, really. We're talking about this, and obviously, if you've got more of an insight to this, or you have your own opinions, let us know below. But what we were considering and what we were talking about is the fact that God of War seems like it's almost addressed at a lot of Westerners. It's a big, burly, strong man of doom who's gonna like take up a massive axe and cut people up and monsters up, and it's got a very much sort of Western feel to it. And what's really weird is that Days Gone has got a very Western feel, but I'm pretty sure that the Japanese love zombies.
Do they?
They
have done quite a few.
They've like some of the Japanese like unique films and whatnot.
Was one. It was really intense sort of zombie film. I think it might have been Korean or something like that. But
well, that's not Japanese for sure.
It was. It was in a photo. I couldn't determine if it was Japanese or Korean, but
that's racist.
It looked really good.
It looked amazing. Either way, but like. It's weird because obviously God of War got such amazing reviews, and this Days Gone got sort of all quite good reviews, but nowhere near the capacity that God of War got. So what on earth makes them not like God of War as much, besides the big muscular man on the front that's topless?
Is it a religious thing?
And the child? No,
gods?
They don't have gods.
Maybe that's why then.
No. Or they don't believe it because the whole of God of War is about gods.
It is.
Maybe. Yeah, I know. I'm not denying that. But yeah, it's just something to have as a trail of thought. Really, it's just like remember that just because a game's amazing doesn't mean it'll necessarily sell better than a really rubbish game. Call of Duty does very well at that.
True. The sales figures were actually closer to Horizon Zero Dawn, which sold 116,997 copies copies at retail during its launch.
The Japanese do like their own games. They like their Japanese games. That's why, like Square Enix and whatnot, they like most of their sales. Like Pokemon, you think it does well over here. Don't get me wrong, it does do well in the West. In Japan, whew, that
way of life.
It literally is a way of life over there. Like it's implemented in every unspeakable way. If you can think of something, I bet you there's a Pokemon equivalent of it in Japan.
I don't want to think about that.
Yeah. And last of all, on this little section, just to remind you, just a small thing because it's nothing really that big. Rage 2 is out on Tuesday, the 14th of May. Yeah, that's about it really. I think we can end the podcast now.
Yeah, we covered Rage 2 before.
Just don't. I'm not there for it. Bethesda have gone downhill so much recently. It's sort of makes me sick. Physically sick. I'm not a big fan of Bethesda as it is, and then what they've done recently is just not doing well. I'll tell you what, I am gonna be interested to see the reviews of that game, because if it does turn out that game is unbelievably incredible, I will eat a sock.
I'm picking the sock.
You can pick the sock, because that the game just looks really
cliche, overplayed,
sort of
on the nose.
Yeah, and especially considering Rage 1 didn't do very well, or just Rage, I should just call it. And they've decided to revive it. That's really cool and really interesting. Like, giving something another shot is really good, and I would encourage a lot of companies to do that with some of their titles that maybe didn't take off so well, but don't take it off and then it look exactly the same as the first one, because it looks boring as shit.
You got the whole Destiny conundrum
no,
scenario,
I'd rather play Destiny. and I'm salty about Destiny. Salty about Sea of Thieves, salty about Destiny. You'd think we'd go through a whole podcast without me mentioning Sea of Thieves at least twice.
You can't do it.
I can't do it. So yeah. That's it for this week. Remember, Final Fantasy VII footage is out there to watch.
How could they forget?
If you're listening, remember to go and see it. Watch the clip, watch the trailer, join the hype. And if you've got anything negative to say about it, just remember that you're wrong.
That's a good thing to put out on the internet, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, and obviously the Flying Squirrel game is going to go down as our most notable game this week, because that is.
With that game, I'm like, I don't want to know about it, but I kind of am intrigued at the same time.
Exactly, and that's what you want from it.
No, but I'm not going
to. Have you ever played a game where you're a flying squirrel? Have you ever played a game where you're a squirrel?
I feel like I have. I need to think about this. Yes, nuts. It was an iPad game.
Right, okay, we'll end it there. Thank you very much for listening. Speak to you next week.
Bye.